Okay, so good morning to all. We shall today begin with another new chapter. Okay, so in yesterday's lecture we have seen certain psychological disorders. Okay, neuropsychiatric disorders. The different types we have seen. What are the prominent symptoms which can be seen in a particular type of neurological disorders? We have seen that basically it is broadly classified into three types. That is psychosis, affective disorders and neurosis. Okay, so under that the second one, that is affective disorders, under that there are two conditions, that is mania and depression. Okay, so these are the two totally opposite kind of conditions or state of mind, okay, or specifically the state of mood of a particular person. Okay, so in the affective disorders basically the mood of the person is affected. Okay, so in mania what happens is there is elation or irritable mood, okay, wherein sleep may be distorted, behavioral changes may be seen, the person may be hyper excited over there in this condition. Okay, and on the contrary depression is opposite to that. So the person will have a feeling of sadness, guilt, worthlessness. So all these conditions, so person will remain isolated, have suicidal tendencies. So these are the two conditions under affective disorders, and we had seen that these two conditions may also coexist together. So either it can affect a particular individual alone, either mania or depression, or both the conditions may exist in the same person, and that particular condition is known as bipolar disorder. When it is occurring alone, it is known as a unipolar disorder, and when both mania and depression occurs, it is known as a bipolar disorder. Okay, so there are specific drugs which are useful in treatment of mania. Okay, that's what we are going to cover today. Anti-manic drugs, or these are also known as mood stabilizing drugs, because the mood which is irritable and elated, okay, so distorted mood, that is stabilized of that person. Or these are also known as drugs for bipolar disorder, because in bipolar we have seen that it coexists with the depression. Mania and depression both will be there cyclically. Few days a person may suffer from mania, after that few days depression, then again mania, again depression. So it may go on, it's a cyclic condition. So it's known as a bipolar disorder. Okay, so anti-manic drugs can either be used to treat mania alone, or it can be used to treat the condition bipolar disorder wherein it is coexisting along with the depression. Coming to the outline of the chapter, here we are going to cover the pharmacology of lithium carbonate, which is a very important drug. Okay, apart from that we are going to see the alternatives to lithium. So once this lithium was discovered, it was found out that there are many intolerable side effects which are seen with these, or adverse effects. So few patients were also not able to tolerate them very well or continue the treatment. So for that matter, certain alternatives to lithium have been derived. Rather, you cannot say that they are discovered, because already they were used for some other purpose. Like say if you can read these names, these are familiar, right? Carbamazepine, sodium valproate, lamotrigine, topiramate. These four drugs are anti-emetic drugs, which we have already covered under anticonvulsant or anti-epileptic chapter. Okay, so these are anti-epileptic agents. And the fifth and the last class is the atypical antipsychotics. Okay, so this is the last class under the chapter antipsychotics. Antipsychotics, I have already told you all yesterday, are the drugs which are used in the first condition, that is psychosis. Under that there is split personality. Okay, so that particular treatment of neurological disorder like schizophrenia is a condition which can be treated by this particular drugs. Okay, so these atypical antipsychotics are also found to be effective in the treatment of these mania, okay, or bipolar disorder. Okay, so these drugs, you can see that this is a kind of repurposing. So these are actually discovered for some other condition, and then again they were found to be effective in stabilizing the mood also. Okay, so they are used as an alternatives, or certain drugs are nowadays, these have superseded the use of lithium. Okay, so they are used instead of lithium. Coming to the pharmacology of lithium carbonate. Okay, now lithium basically it's a monovalent cation. This is how it is denoted with. It has a single positive charge on it. Okay, so in the form of carbonate it is utilized, lithium carbonate. So this drug is very useful in suppressing the mania alone, as well as it is acting as prophylactic in bipolar disorder. Prophylactic meaning something which is used to prevent something. Okay, so a person suffering from manic depressive illness or bipolar conditions, in them you can prevent the precipitation of these bipolar disorder. Okay, so it is effective both in mania as well as in bipolar condition. Okay, and apart from that, over a few decades, okay, past 2 decades, there are several other agents also which have been added, as we have seen in the outline. Several anticonvulsants and antipsychotics also have been emerged as an alternative to lithium, and their efficacy is comparable to that of lithium. Okay, that is, they are equally efficacious when you compare them with the lithium. Coming to the actions and mechanism of action of lithium, the prominent action of this lithium is on CNS, whereas very few actions are shown on other systems of the body. Coming to the actions on the CNS, under this itself we are going to cover the mechanism of action, how it is improving the mania or bipolar disorder. Okay, now coming to the actions first on the CNS. Okay, lithium as such, it has no acute effects. Acute meaning something which is short lasting. Okay, so if you give it for the shorter period of time, okay, it has no prominent effect in normal individuals. If you give it in normal individuals who are not suffering from any mania or bipolar disorder, so in such individuals as well as in bipolar patient, if you give it for a shorter period of time, there won't be any acute effects which are produced by this drug. Neither this lithium has a sedative property, nor it has a euphoriant property. That means it does not have any abuse liability. Okay, but upon prolonged administration, that is, if you administer the drug over a period of time chronically, it will result in stabilization of the mood, specifically in the bipolar disorder. Okay, apart from that, when it is given to the acute mania patients, okay, it does not show the improvement very quickly, but it will take certain period of time. That is, you can see that 1 to 2 weeks lag time is there for it to show effectiveness in the person who is suffering from acute mania. Okay, so it takes a little bit time for it to show its action. So it needs time. You need to give this drug chronically over a period of time, and it need to continue for a longer period of time. Okay, so as to prevent any kind of cyclic mood changes or bipolar changes if it is taking place. Then we have also seen under mania that there is reduction in the sleep. Okay, so a person who is suffering from mania will not be able to sleep appropriately, so they suffer from insomnia. Okay, so this reduced sleep time in the manic patient, that is also normalized. Okay, so it will, though it is not having any sedative property, but due to its action in the CNS, it will tend to normalize the sleep time. The person will have a better sleep. So these are the actions on the CNS. Then coming to the mechanism of action of lithium. Again, as such, the exact mechanism of action is not known, but there are several theories which have been put forth. Okay, so there are 3 main theories which have been put forth. Earlier, it was thought that one of the theory, it says that lithium, when it is administered in the body, it replaces the body sodium ions. Sodium ions are normally found in our body, right? These are sodium is responsible for maintenance of the tonicity, right? So it's basically an extracellular ion. You all have already studied about these, okay, ions in your body and what their role is. Okay, so sodium naturally is present in your body fluids, and basically it is an extracellular ion. Mostly it is found in the extracellular fluid in the higher concentration as compared to the intracellular fluids. Okay, so what lithium does is, it when it is administered, it partly replaces this body sodium ions. Okay, but if you can see the distribution of this lithium, it is nearly equally distributed inside and outside the cell, unlike sodium or potassium. If you can see, sodium is an extracellular ion, so more amount of sodium is present extracellularly, whereas more amount of potassium will be present intracellularly because it is an intracellular ion. Okay, so there is an unequal distribution of these ions. Okay, so that is not the case with lithium. Lithium is nearly equally, okay, so almost equally distributed in the extracellular fluid as well as in the intracellular fluid. So because of this change in the distribution of this positively charged ion, it affects the ionic fluxes across the brain cells. So it will go reach your CNS and it will get distributed over there also equally. So what it will do, because of that equal distribution, it will, now why these ions move across whenever there is a signal coming in, there is an unequal proportion, so there is a gradient available and it will flow through. So now what lithium is doing, a positive charge is getting distributed across your membrane in equal proportions. So there it will affect, because of that equal distribution across the membrane, it will affect the ionic fluxes, that is movement of the normal ions in your brain cells. Okay, so these will be affected, or because of this it can also modify the property of the cellular membranes. Okay, so certain properties, certain functions may get affected over here. So this is one of the theory which has been put forth, which results in stabilization of the mood. The second mechanism by which it could be acting is by decreasing the presynaptic release of NADH, noradrenaline and dopamine. These are the neurotransmitters or the catecholamines which are normally released in the brain to carry out certain physiological functions. So what lithium is doing, it is decreasing the release of these neurotransmitters. Okay, so only Na and Da is getting affected. The 5-HT release is not getting affected over here. It is not decreasing the release of 5-HT. Okay, so here mainly noradrenaline and dopamine, their release is decreased. So any kind of imbalance in the turnover, okay, that is their synthesis, release, destruction and all that. Okay, so any kind of imbalance in this turnover of brain monoamines, these are all monoamines, right? So any kind of imbalance in that turnover of the brain monoamine specifically, so that will be balanced, that will be brought back to normal because of this action by decreasing the presynaptic release, that is from the presynaptic axon terminals, the release of these transmitters which are stored, their release will be inhibited or decreased. Then there is one more theory which has been put forth, okay, and this is quite an attractive theory or a hypothesis which has been proposed. Okay, it states that lithium acts by inhibiting the hydrolysis of inositol 1-phosphate. Okay, now hydrolysis of this inositol 1-phosphate, it takes place with the help of inositol monophosphatase. This is the enzyme responsible for hydrolysis of inositol 1-phosphate. So there is one phosphate molecule over here attached to this inositol molecule. So by hydrolysis, this is a monophosphatase, meaning what it will do, it will split this phosphate. Okay, so because of this splitting, it will set this inositol free. Okay, so because of this hydrolysis of inositol 1-phosphate by this enzyme, free inositol will be available. Okay, this is what normally happens, I am talking about. Okay, so this free inositol, it will be utilized for regeneration of membrane phosphatidyl inositates, and these are actually utilized for the generation of IP3 and DAG. If you can remember, G protein coupled receptor, these are the second messengers which are generated over there, right? In the transducer mechanisms, you all have already studied the IP3 DAG pathway and the G protein coupled receptor. Okay, so availability of the starting material for generation of this IP3 DAG, it is derived from this inositol 1-phosphate. Okay, now coming back to the action of your lithium. What lithium is doing? It is inhibiting the hydrolysis of this. Okay, so it is inhibiting this enzyme so that hydrolysis of inositol 1-phosphate will not take place. So because this hydrolysis of inositol 1-phosphate will not take place, there won't be any generation of free inositol. Inositol will not be set free, so that it will ultimately affect. For what it is required? It is required for regeneration of membrane phosphatidyl inositoids. So since inositol is not available, membrane phosphatidyl inositoids will again be reduced, and because of this, these are the acting as sources for IP3DAG. So because membrane phosphatidyl inositoids will reduce in concentration or amount, obviously there will be less of generation of IP3 and DAG. Okay, so that's how it is affecting that transmission. So wherever those hyperactive neurons which are carrying the signals for the mental symptoms which are precipitated in the manic state, so all those hyperactive neurons are searched for and their action is suppressed. Okay, so since these IP3DAG will not be available, the signal transduction will not take place in these hyperactive neurons. So that's how lithium is affecting the transmission, okay, which is carried out by those hyperactive neurons, and that's how it is helping in controlling the overactive and hyperactivity which is seen under the mania. Okay. And coming to the other actions, we have so far seen the actions on the CNS and how it is acting over there, the mechanism of action. Then coming to the other actions. Okay, the other action, few other systems are also affected over here. First point under this is lithium is inhibiting the action of ADH. ADH is an antidiuretic hormone. Okay, so antidiuretic hormone from posterior pituitary gland, what it does, it controls your urine output, right? Antidiuretic hormone, meaning it will reduce the urine output. It keeps the urine output low. Now what lithium is doing to this ADH? It is inhibiting the action of this ADH on the distal tubules of your kidney. Okay, so because of the action of ADH on kidneys is inhibited, ADH, which normally causes reduction in the urine output, lithium will inhibit its action, so opposite will be taken place, opposite outcome will be seen, that is increase in the urine output will be seen, because lithium is inhibiting the action of ADH on the kidneys. So urine output will increase and it will produce a diabetes insipidus like state. Okay, this you all have already studied. Here what happens, diabetes mellitus and diabetes insipidus, there are two conditions. Diabetes mellitus is to do with the glucose metabolism, but here over there glucose levels are increased, and in case of diabetes insipidus, mainly urine output is increased. So diabetes insipidus like state is precipitated by lithium. Then coming to the other actions, it also has insulin like action on the glucose metabolism. Now what insulin does is, insulin helps in reduction of the glucose, blood glucose level, right? It helps in taking up of glucose, or in utilization of the glucose by the cells is increased by insulin. Okay, so similar action is also produced by lithium. So what lithium will do to your glucose levels, blood glucose levels, it will be reduced by lithium. So just like insulin, lithium also can reduce the blood glucose level. Apart from that, lithium can also result in increase in the leukocyte count. Okay, leukocytes meaning your WBC. So WBC count will be increased during the lithium therapy. When the person is taking lithium, the WBC levels may rise. Apart from that, lithium also inhibits the release of thyroid hormone from your thyroid gland. So thyroid hormones T3 and T4. Okay, so these are basically involved in controlling your metabolic processes. So they affect many metabolic changes in the body. So thyroid hormones which are released from the thyroid gland, these are inhibited by lithium. Okay, so whatever hormone is formed in your thyroid gland, their release into the blood circulation will be inhibited. So blood levels of these thyroid hormones will go low. Okay, now there is a feedback mechanism which is actually running through to maintain the homeostasis in your body. Anything which is going abnormal, there is a specific level of thyroid hormones which has to be maintained in the blood. So if at all there is any changes in the thyroid hormone levels, obviously there will be feedback mechanisms which will come into picture. When there are levels which are going low, it will try to adjust the levels so that the thyroid hormone levels should come back to normal. If they become excess, there will be feedback mechanism which will come into picture, which will tend to lower the thyroid levels. So these you all have already covered under the endocrine part. Okay, so what lithium does is, it inhibits the release of this thyroid hormone. So what it will do, it will reduce the blood levels of these thyroid hormones. Now since the levels of thyroid hormones are low, there is a feedback stimulation of the TSH, that is thyroid stimulating hormone. Now here the levels of thyroid hormones have reduced. So TSH secretion from your pituitary gland will increase. Okay, so because of this TSH levels are high, TSH what it does, it is thyroid stimulating hormone. So it will go and signal, or it will direct your thyroid gland to synthesize and release and more thyroid hormone, because here the levels have been reduced by lithium. So more and more thyroid hormones will be released into the blood, and ultimately it will result in hyperthyroidism. That is, thyroid levels will go high because of the treatment with lithium. Then this finishes the actions. Coming to the pharmacokinetics and control of therapy. Okay, lithium, it is slowly absorbed when it is given by oral route, but it is absorbed well. That is, complete absorption of the lithium will take place by oral route. Once into systemic circulation, it is neither protein bound nor metabolized. Protein binding does not take place. Okay, so whatever reaches your systemic circulation, entire thing is available in the free form, and metabolism of lithium also does not take place. It is excreted as it is mostly in the urine. It is filtered out as it is. It is an ion. So it will get filtered out, just like your other ions are getting filtered at your Bowman's capsule. Similarly, lithium is also getting excreted out as it is. We'll come to the excretion part a little later. Okay, so once into your systemic circulation, obviously your blood will carry that ion throughout your body. So first, this lithium which has reached your systemic circulation, it will get distributed in your extracellular fluids. Okay, and gradually, slowly it will start entering into your cells. It will also start penetrating into your brain, and it will get equally distributed throughout your body. There will be uniform distribution of this lithium throughout the body. Okay, we have seen that almost equally it is distributed intracellularly as well as extracellular, and this is the volume of distribution. 0.8 liters per kg is the volume of distribution. And if you consider the concentration in the CSF, that is cerebrospinal fluid, okay, the amount of lithium or the concentration of lithium in the CSF is about half that of plasma concentration. So whatever plasma concentration, it is almost half of that concentration is found in the CSF. Then coming to the excretion part. Okay, so lithium, it is handled by kidney in the same way as that of the sodium. Okay, so just like sodium, we have already covered this, what happens to your sodium ions in your diuretic chapter. We have seen the physiology relating to your renal functions. We have seen how the several ions are filtered out, how they are reabsorbed, how they are secreted back, what are the different exchangers, okay, what are the different transporters which are available in your kidneys. We have seen that the nephron, okay, it filters out several things. It filters almost all the contents of your blood. Okay, in the Bowman's capsule, the efferent blood vessels will bring the blood over there, and with the speed of that blood, depending upon the pressure of the blood, the fluids will get filtered out, except your blood proteins and blood cells. Almost most of the content will get filtered out into your proximal convoluted tubules, which is the first part of your nephron tubular structure. So over there again reabsorption will start. So whatever is filtered out, entire thing is not excreted out as it is. Okay, so most of the things which are filtered out, they will get reabsorbed. Okay, and we are concerned about sodium over here. We'll focus more on sodium because lithium is handled in the same way as that of sodium. That means most of the sodium gets filtered out in the capsules. We have seen in the same way lithium also will get filtered out, and just like sodium, this whatever lithium is filtered, the just like sodium, sodium is maximum amount of sodium is getting reabsorbed back into your circulation because of tubular reabsorption. Okay, so over here also, when the person is administered with lithium, no doubt lithium will be filtered at your nephron, but almost 80% of the filtered lithium will be reabsorbed back into your circulation at the proximal convoluted tubule, which is the first part of your tubular structure of nephron. So from this area, nearly about 80% of your lithium is reabsorbed. It comes back into your blood circulation. Now, when the administration of sodium is restricted, suppose the intake of sodium is restricted, like sodium, you consume sodium in the form of salt, right? NaCl. Okay, normally you use salt in your food. Okay, so if you restrict the amount of consumption of sodium, okay, sodium chloride, what happens? Your intake is reduced. Okay, so now because of this intake is reduced, what will happen? Your body will try to adjust now. So it will try to reabsorb most of the fraction of sodium which is filtered out. Okay, so this is what normally takes place or happens when sodium intake is restricted. So most of the filtered sodium will be reabsorbed into your kidneys, and same also will take place with the lithium. So sodium restriction, no doubt it will result in more and more reabsorption of sodium in the kidneys, but at the same time it will also start more and more reabsorption of your lithium also. So lithium levels may also rise. Okay. Then coming to the excretion part. Okay, that is how exactly and on what basis it is getting excreted out. We have seen that it is filtered out normally, okay, in the glomerulus, that is Bowman's capsule. It is filtered out. Okay, but after a single dose of this lithium, this urinary excretion of this lithium, whatever you are administered with, it is rapidly excreted. Okay, within say 10 to 12 hours it gets excreted out. So for first 10 to 12 hours after the administration of the lithium, the excretion of lithium occurs at a very faster rate. Okay, but after that is after 10 to 12 hours, gradually the excretion of lithium takes place at a very slower rate. Okay, so it may take several days for this lithium to get excreted out. Initially, no doubt the excretion will take place very rapidly, but later on it will slow down. So this later phase, in the later phase wherein the excretion of lithium is taking place at a slower phase, so that elimination T half-life of this lithium, it roughly it amounts to be 16 to 30 hours. Okay, so elimination T half-life of lithium in this later slower phase is round about 16 to 30 hours. So it is getting excreted at a very, very slow rate. So it may take several days for that lithium to get excreted out. If you can compare it with the creatinine clearance, generally this is a parameter which is used to find out whether the person's excretory processes are functioning normally or no. Okay, so creatinine, how well the kidney can remove the waste. Okay, creatinine. So it is actually used as a parameter to determine whether the kidney is functioning normally or not. So if you can compare the excretion, renal excretion of this lithium with creatinine clearance, the renal excretion of lithium is 1/5 of that of creatinine clearance. So you can imagine it is getting out, excreted out of the body at a very, very slow rate. Okay, so it remains in your body for a longer period of time. Then, so this is what is happening after a single dose. Now supposing if you repeat the treatment, if you administer another dose, okay, so if you continue the treatment, ultimately what happens when one dose is given, we have seen this under your basic pharmacology. Initially what happens when you administer a particular drug, slowly your plasma concentration will increase, it will reach a peak, maximum plasma concentration, and after that it will gradually fall down if you do not repeat any kind of treatment. So initially it will start getting absorbed, it will come into your systemic circulation, plasma concentration will rise, and later on what happens after the peak, it slowly declines. Now why it is declining? Because that drug is getting excreted out of the body. Okay, so there is a bell-shaped structure for your, or that curve is a bell-shaped curve for administration of a single dose of a drug. But we have seen what happens exactly to that plasma concentration when a particular medication is repeated over a period of time. So before that entire drug gets excreted out, if you administer the second dose of the drug, we have seen that plasma level will increase higher. So it will go on increasing as the drug starts accumulating. So a time will come wherein absorption and excretion of the drug or elimination of the drug will balance each other and a steady state plasma concentration will be achieved. Okay, but with lithium it takes around about 5 to 7 days for it to reach that steady state plasma concentration. It will not reach more quickly. Okay, so it takes a little bit time for it to reach that steady state plasma concentration. Till then it will be fluctuating. Now these levels, okay, these are higher in case of older patients. Okay, so elderly patients or those patients who are suffering from the renal insufficiency. So in such individuals, what happens? The excretion of the lithium will not take place very effectively. Okay, in the elderly patient also we have seen that excretion slowly declines, right? Renal function may decline in the later states. So what will happen? Excretion will not take place. So these levels will be a little bit higher in these individuals. Elderly patients or in whom there is renal insufficiency, wherein the kidneys are not functioning appropriately. Apart from this, there are marked inter-individual variation in the rate of excretion. That is, the rate of excretion of lithium is not the same in all the individuals. Okay, so it is varying. Okay, and there may be peaks. Like supposing after steady state level is attained, if you take another dose of lithium, okay, then there may be fluctuations. There may be peaks seen in your plasma concentration of lithium. It will not be maintained in a particular range of concentration, but it may fluctuate. There may be sudden peaks in the plasma concentration. Suddenly this plasma concentration of lithium will rise above the steady state level which is attained. Okay, now these peaks are not ideal. Okay, sudden increase in the plasma concentration is not ideal. Okay, it may be precipitating the side effects also if it crosses a particular amount plasma levels. Okay, so this fluctuations, how you can avoid it? By dividing the dose. So rather than giving a high dose, single dose, we have seen that the excretion takes place very slowly. So rather than giving a single dose, high amount of single dose, what is done is it is divided into 2 to 4 portions. In a day, 2 to 4 divided portions lithium is administered, or it is administered in the form of a sustained release tablet. Okay, to avoid these peaks. So these peaks in plasma concentration of lithium can be avoided. Okay, then lithium mainly gets excreted in the kidney, we said. Okay, in the urine. Apart from that, it is also excreted in the sweat as well as in the saliva. It can also be secreted in the breast milk. So it is contraindicated in the lactating mother, in the breastfeeding mother. Okay, otherwise the child may get affected. Okay, so it is contraindicated. Then coming to the adverse effects of lithium. Okay, there are quite many adverse effects of lithium which can be precipitated. So initially it may precipitate common symptoms like nausea, vomiting and mild diarrhea may be seen, okay, at the initiation of your therapy. And these you can minimize by starting at a lower dose and slowly you can increase the dose as per the requirement of the patient. So these side effects will be avoided. Apart from this, thirst and polyuria. The person will feel more thirsty, will try to consume more and more water, and polyuria will be precipitated. That is, more amount of urine output will be seen. We have seen that under the actions also, that urine output is increased. Polyuria meaning increase in the urine output. Okay, so these are quite distressing. Okay, person will feel more and more thirsty, will try to consume more and more water. Then apart from this, fine tremors will be seen. Tremors meaning movement of your, specifically your fingers or maybe your vocal cords, Okay, so this initially fine tremors will be seen. Rarely seizures may also be precipitated. These may occur at therapeutic concentrations. Okay, so all these are seen at therapeutic concentrations. Now, as the plasma concentration rises, okay, it may start precipitating CNS toxicity also. Okay, that is certain your CNS side effects may be seen, like coarse tremors. Okay, at therapeutic doses we have seen that there were fine tremors, but here these will become more coarse. That is, it will be visible that your fingers are shaking or moving, or there may be some kind of your speech may get affected. You may not be able to speak appropriately. Okay, so these are set of examples of coarse tremors. Okay, then giddiness will be produced. That is, a person may feel like fainting, like feeling may come. Ataxia, that is motor incoordination, will be seen. Okay, so ataxia is same as motor incoordination. Then nystagmus, that is involuntary movement of your eye, side to side or up and down. You are not actually making that eye movement, but involuntarily that eye is making certain movements from side to side, this side to that side, right to left, or up and down. The eye will make this movement. Mental confusion may be precipitated. Then slurred speech, that is, a person's speech will not be clear. Okay, you will not be able to understand what the person is trying to say. So there is a slurring of speech, so that few words you will not be able to understand. Okay, then hyperreflexia, your reflex actions. Okay, so normally they will be enhanced. Then apart from this, so this is occurring at high plasma concentration. Then when acute intoxication takes place, okay, that is at still higher doses, these symptoms may progress to muscle twitching. That is, the involuntary contractions and relaxations of your skeletal muscles in certain regions of your body will take place. Drowsiness will be seen, delirium, and at times the person may even go to coma. Convulsions may also be precipitated, and certain other symptoms are also, these are all CNS side effects. Okay, so apart from this, vomiting may be seen, severe diarrhea, albuminuria, that is, albumin may be seen in the urine, presence of albumin or proteins in the urine. Hypotension and cardiac arrhythmias may also be precipitated at the intoxication. Then, on long-term use, okay, that is, if you use the drug over a period of time, it will start developing the diabetes insipidus like condition, because you have seen that, we have seen under the actions that it increases the urine output. Again, goiter can also be precipitated. We have seen that what it does in the actions, it is interfering with the release of thyroid hormones. Okay, so it is decreasing the release of thyroid hormones. Okay, they are normally synthesized, but they are not released. Lithium is inhibiting the release of this thyroid hormone. So there will be decrease in this T3 and T4 levels in your blood. So what will happen? As a feedback mechanism, TSH will be released from your pituitary gland, and it will in turn go and act on your thyroid gland, and it will start enlargement and stimulation of this thyroid gland. Okay, so there will be more and more thyroid hormones which will be synthesized and which will be released. So it will also increase the size of your thyroid gland. Okay, in order to increase the synthesis of your thyroid hormones. So that's how goiter can be precipitated in round about 4% of the patients who are taking lithium treatment. Then next point is, lithium is contraindicated during pregnancy because it is having teratogenic tendency. Fetal goiter can be precipitated, okay, or other congenital birth defects may be precipitated. Specifically, the cardiac, the CVS may get affected, and the newborn, the baby which is born, it is often hypotonic. Okay, hypotonic meaning what? Tonicity of the body fluids is low over there. Okay, then at higher levels, the SA node and AV conduction is depressed. Okay, of the cardiac complications may be seen. SA node generally is responsible for generation of the impulses. Then AV node, AV bundles, they are responsible for the conduction of this impulse which is generated from the SA node. So because this SA node and this AV conduction is depressed, impulse generation will get affected, and also the conduction throughout your heart will get affected. So heart may not be able to contract appropriately. Okay, so lithium is contraindicated in 6 sinus syndrome, wherein so in such individuals this SA node is not functioning appropriately. Okay, so in such individuals lithium is supposed to be contraindicated, that is, it is not supposed to be administered in such individuals. And coming to the interactions, okay, what will happen if lithium is combined with other drugs? Say for example diuretics like thiazides or high ceiling diuretics, furosemide. So when diuretics are given, okay, now what diuretics do? They increase the excretion of sodium and water, right? That's what we have seen. Diuretic, they increase the urine output, so they cause more and more loss of sodium. Okay, now because of this more and more loss, meaning they will there will be more of filtration of the sodium ions, okay, and also the reabsorption of the sodium will get affected over here. Okay, so in the same way this diuretics also is affecting your lithium. So what it will do? It will promote the proximal tubular reabsorption of lithium also along with your sodium ions. So since it is increasing the reabsorption of lithium, what will happen? Your lithium will, whatever is filtered out, it will be reabsorbed into the body. Okay, so since it is causing the loss of sodium ions, that means whatever is filtered, okay, in the later areas we have seen that there will be increase in the sodium reabsorption. Sorry. So that's why a combination of certain drugs are also utilized, certain diuretics. So in the same way lithium reabsorption also will be increased, so plasma lithium levels will rise and toxicity may take place. Then apart from that, drugs like tetracyclines, NSAIDs and ACE inhibitors. Tetracyclines are antibiotics, okay, then NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, analgesics, or ACE inhibitors we have seen under cardiovascular chapters. Okay, so such drugs also can cause the lithium retention, so they will increase the lithium levels and toxicity may be seen. Then lithium reduces the pressure response to NA, noradrenaline. It's a pressure agent. Okay, so lithium reduces the pressure response. It will not show rise in the BP. Pressure agent meaning it rises the blood pressure. So it can be used in case of hypotension to increase the blood pressure. So when lithium is given, it will reduce the pressure action of this noradrenaline. Then in the actions we have seen that lithium shows insulin-like action on the blood glucose or glucose metabolism. Okay, so they tend to reduce the blood glucose levels. So what will happen if lithium is combined with insulin or sulfonylureas, okay, oral hypoglycemic drugs? These also tend to reduce the blood glucose level. Lithium also tends to reduce the blood glucose level. So they will enhance the hypoglycemic action which is shown by this insulin or sulfonylurea. The next interaction is with succinylcholine and pancuronium. These are skeletal muscle relaxants as we have studied. So when lithium is given, there may be more prolonged or pronounced paralysis of your skeletal muscles will take place when succinylcholine and pancuronium are administered to patients who are already treated with lithium. More pronounced relaxation of the muscles will take place. Then next interaction is with the neuroleptics or antipsychotic drugs. Say this is one example given over there. Haloperidol is an antipsychotic drug. So generally it may be administered without much of the problem, but sometimes this combination of haloperidol and lithium, it may precipitate marked tremors and rigidity may be produced. Okay, and also lithium will potentiate the neuroleptic action. Okay, that means antipsychotic action of these neuroleptics will be potentiated or enhanced by lithium. So you should be careful while the combination is administered. Okay, then coming to the uses. Okay, so as we have seen that lithium is effective in acute mania. Okay, and also it is used as a prophylactic drug. Okay, Okay, so in prophylaxis of bipolar disorder also it can be used in combination with antidepressant, because here both the conditions are seen. So lithium and antidepressants may be given in a combination, and later on lithium alone may be continued as a maintenance phase to break the cyclic mood changes. Apart from that, it is also used in other neuropsychiatric illness, cluster headaches, okay, or as an adjunct to the antidepressants also it can be used. Then other minor uses include cancer chemotherapy induced leukopenia, okay, or agranulocytosis. So over here there is decrease in the leukocyte count. Okay, cancer chemotherapy, it will decrease the WBC count. Okay, so what lithium does, under the actions we have seen that it increases the leukocyte count. So it will help to combat this condition. Okay, then it can also be used in the inappropriate ADH secretion syndrome. Okay, we have seen that lithium inhibits the action of ADH on the renal tubule. So if there are high levels of ADH, lithium can be utilized to counteract that action, but it is not as much dependent, but it could be used. The next part is, so this finishes the lithium, pharmacology of lithium. Coming to the alternatives to lithium. So lithium, once it was discovered, it was the first line treatment, but then it was found that approximately 50% of the patients of mania and bipolar disorder, they show incomplete or poor response to this lithium alone when it is given as a single drug. Okay, and many of the patients were not able to tolerate. We have seen that there are several adverse effects. Okay, so because of the risk of this toxicities and interactions, several alternatives have come into picture. Many of the anti-epileptic drugs also have been used, we have seen. Okay, so carbamazepine is a one. Okay, CBZ is the accepted short form for that, we have seen. Okay, so detailed pharmacology we have already covered under the anti-epileptic chapter, which will not be repeated again over here. Okay, so this carbamazepine, initially it was introduced as an anti-epileptic drug, but later on it was also found to prolong the remission in bipolar disorder. Remission meaning recovery from some kind of disease or disorder. Okay, so it showed improvement in the symptoms of this bipolar disorder. However, this carbamazepine is less effective than lithium or sodium valproate. Okay, it is effective, but it is less efficacious as compared to lithium or sodium valproate. Okay, so it can be generally used in combinations. Okay, say along with the lithium. So those patients who relapse, that relapse meaning that condition which is controlled. Okay, say once the lithium therapy is started, so what it will do, it will control the symptoms, but then the patients may show relapse. That is, again that condition may be precipitated. Mania may get precipitated in such individuals. Okay, or in such individuals in whom there are rapid cyclic mood changes. So in such individuals, this combination does better. Okay, as compared to the lithium alone, lithium plus carbamazepine combination, it does well in such individuals. Okay, so since this drug is better tolerated, less of side effects as compared to lithium, it has now gained popularity. Sometimes it is used as a first line treatment alone, or as well as an adjunctive treatment. That is, along with your lithium, it could be combined for both these conditions, acute mania as well as bipolar illness. Then the next drug is sodium valproate. Again, this is an anti-epileptic drug found to be effective in the bipolar disorder. Okay, so this is again a first line treatment for acute mania. Okay, so specifically over here, high doses of valproate may be required. Okay, or it can be used as an alternative to this combination. Antipsychotics along with BZDs, along with or maybe without BZDs, they are also used in this condition. So these could be effective. This sodium valproate could be effective, okay, as an alternative to this therapy. Okay, either alone it can control this condition, or as an alternative to the therapy with antipsychotic with or without BZDs. It is acting as an, or it can be used as an alternative drug. Okay, so also it can be used in those patients who are not responding to lithium, or those who are not able to tolerate this lithium. Okay, say if too many side effects are being produced by this lithium. So alternatively, you can switch over to this sodium valproate. Okay, so this either alone or in combination it can be used. It will help in breaking that cyclic pattern of the mood changes. Okay, the next drug is lamotrigine. This is again a recently introduced anticonvulsant drug. It is also utilized in bipolar disorder, but it is not used for acute mania. It is only used for bipolar disorder to break the cyclic pattern. Okay, so either alone or as an adjunctive, that is along with lithium, it can be combined to control the symptoms. The next is topiramate. Again, this is a recently introduced anti-epileptic drug. This is also effective in the bipolar disorder, but it is useful as an adjunctive therapy, that is along with the lithium. Okay, apart from that, gabapentin, cyclic GABA analog, this can also be used as a prophylactic treatment. Then the last class is or the last example is atypical antipsychotics. This is the last class under the antipsychotic chapter also. So recently introduced, or their mechanism is not very clear. Okay, so they are classified separately. Okay, so examples like olanzapine, risperidone, then aripiprazole, quetiapine. So these, any one of these atypical antipsychotics with or without BZTs, that is either along with BZT or without utilization of this BZT. These are now preferred for, or these are now to be the first line treatment in case of acute mania. Okay, so except for emergency cases wherein injectable form has to be given in case of emergencies, other older neuroleptics are used, but otherwise these recently introduced antipsychotics are quite effective. Out of that, olanzapine is quite effective. It is used as a maintenance therapy also for bipolar disorder. So less amount of toxicity, less amount of extrapyramidal side effects or agranulocytosis precipitating tendency. So that's why it is preferred. Okay, there is increasing use of this particular drug in controlling the cyclic mood changes. This finishes the chapter. The questions, the important questions pertaining to this chapter could be classification of this drug. Classification, rather, you should list out the drug. Lithium carbonate and alternatives to lithium, then you should list out the drugs. Okay, that anti-epileptic drugs and the antipsychotic drugs. And another important question under this is pharmacology of lithium carbonate may be asked. It is asked many times in the question papers. Okay, then mechanism of action of lithium carbonate. Those three theories which we have seen. So you should discuss that mechanism of action, and a direct note may also be asked as anti-manic drug. So you have to discuss the entire chapter. Lithium mainly you have to describe entire pharmacology and alternatives, how they are effective. Okay, so we'll stop here.